There's an opportunity this season for Jordan Love to move into the upper echelon of quarterbacks in the NFL, and in doing so, put Green Bay in contention for a Super Bowl title.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. The top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL follow consensus. Pretty much everyone believes, in some order, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, at the very least, that's your top 3, Joe Burrow, top 4. We're safe there. When you look at the lists put out by most of the media, I would say Justin Herbert is that 5th quarterback. There had been, I think, some discussion about Burrow versus Herbert. Herbert right now has some catching up to do, I think. But I put that out on social, and I heard from a lot of fans who were like, why is Justin Herbert in that group? So let's keep him out for the minute. I think a reasonable thing to do, honestly. And you look around the league, and I think you can make the case for about 10 guys. Next. For me, I would have Justin Herbert 5th. So let's just, for the minute, put him there. Of the last 5 Super Bowls, how many were won by the guys in that group? Josh Allen hasn't done it. Lamar Jackson, those guys haven't even been to Super Bowls. Now, Patrick Mahomes, he's got a couple. Joe Burrow has been to a Super Bowl. You got to go further down the list. Jalen Hurts was not and is not in that group of quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford was not and is not. Now, I did hear from some people who thought, hey, if you're going to give that 5th spot to someone, it should be Matthew Stafford. Well, you got to give it to someone. Matthew Stafford over Justin Herbert. But I wasn't ready to do that. I think Herbert is better than Stafford, though I think Stafford has a good case for 6. That was where this started for me. I went, okay, there is this group of players at 6, at QB 6, and Jordan Love is in that conversation. You could make the case that the quarterback in the NFC that plays the closest to that group, because the names I mentioned at the top, all AFC quarterbacks, Lamar, Josh, Mahomes, Burrow, Herbert, all AFC guys. That means there is an opportunity right now to take the mantle as the best quarterback in the NFC. And if that is the case, and I do think it is, then the opportunity is here for the Packers, because Jordan Love, from a production standpoint, is not behind some of the players who are considered ahead of him on some of these lists. We're going to have the Locked On Podcast Network Top 100 come out, and you are going to see Jordan Love behind some quarterbacks that you are going to go, absolutely no way is that quarterback better than Jordan Love. But there is a group: Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, Matthew Stafford, where you go, okay, there are Jaden Daniels, there are cases to be made for those guys. And there are cases for all of those guys. In the postseason, Jaden Daniels played better than Jared Goff, which is why the Commanders advanced. Jalen Hurts played better than Jaden Daniels. That was, the Eagles just overmatched the Commanders in that game. And then Jalen Hurts had a good Super Bowl. He played well enough to win that game. Now, I have made the case that I think there are probably 12, 14, 15 quarterbacks who could have won that Super Bowl. I don't think Jalen Hurts is QB6 in the NFL. Yes, he's won a lot of games with the Eagles. That is an Eagles thing, not a Hurts thing. But what I see here is an opportunity. An opportunity for Jordan Love to seize the mantle, seize the belt as the best quarterback in the NFC. Dak Prescott had a down year last year. I think Jalen Hurts is very much a product of his environment. If that environment falls off a little bit, what does that look like? You've got, Brock Purdy, we'll see. Deebo Samuel out of the building. The offensive line is a question. Christian McCaffrey, can he stay healthy? Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, Baker Mayfield. I think Jordan Love is better than those guys. I think Baker Mayfield has had better weapons. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, that's a really nice group of receivers to throw to over there. They just added Emeka Egbuka. Sniped him from the Packers. I don't know if the Packers were ever going to draft him, but that's neither here nor there. Jordan Love having this opportunity, though, means if he plays at that level, like Matthew Stafford was able to play at that level in 2021, I don't think he was at that time one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL, but he was able to get to that level in the playoffs when it mattered the most, and he had the supporting cast. He had a great team around him and a great coach, and it got them there. I think the Packers are in that position with Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love over the last 2 seasons has been somewhere between the 8th and 12th best quarterback in the NFL. And that hasn't been enough for the Packers in the postseason. And he has not, in either of those playoff games where the Packers lost, played like the 8th or somewhere between the 8th and 12th best quarterback in the NFL. He just hasn't. Now, against the Cowboys, he played like he was the best quarterback in the NFL. So there is some counterbalancing in there. But let's say he is all of a sudden the 6th best quarterback, the 5th best quarterback if you're not a Justin Herbert guy or girl or however. And that could be Jordan Love. If Jordan Love is the 5th best quarterback in the NFL, the 6th best quarterback in the NFL, the Packers are going to be bona fide Super Bowl contenders in 2025 because the rest of this team is good enough. The rest of this team is good enough. And I've made the comparison before, the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know that the talent is so different. I don't know that the structure is so different, that the setup is so different. It's just that those quarterbacks are different. They elevate their team, their play, their control of the game. Remember, Brian Gutekunst said, I want to see Jordan Love control the game. You want to be a top 5, top 6 quarterback. Those guys control the game. Can Jordan Love do that? I think he can. It's a question about will he? And that makes the next couple of years very interesting because, look, Jaden Daniels could ascend to that place. He had the kind of rookie season where you go, man, he could just be the best quarterback in the NFC for the next 10 years. He really could. I don't think he has more arm talent, though, than Jordan Love. His running ability is spectacular. I don't think it's sustainable in the way that we're currently seeing it. I don't think their 4th down and 3rd down percentages are sustainable either. So we'll see when they come back down to earth what that offense looks like, what Cliff Kingsbury looks like another year in, with another year for defenses to have a plan for what they're doing. This gives the Packers and Jordan Love an opportunity. They've got to go seize it. Now, the Packers, they had to protect their defensive backs last year. Or did they? How is it going to change? How will they have to evolve this year? Are they going to make changes to the way they play coverage with Nate Hobbs in the fold, with a secondary that they now understand more, with guys in the roles that fit them better? I want to talk about that next on Locked On Packers. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. This is an opportunity for you to make it easier to manage your money with a partner, something that can be fraught. Those kinds of things, easy to manage. All of it in one place, visibility, transparency. It's a beautiful thing. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Last year, the Packers played a lot of cover two. A lot more than we thought they would. A lot more than they thought they would, and they admitted that. And something we talked about and something I talked to, some coaching sources about was like, why? And their answer was basically like, have you seen who plays corner for them? They do it to protect those corners. Now, if it were that easy, it would have worked better for Joe Barry. They did play cover two for Joe Barry. They were more a quarters team, but the too high safety look was more about not creating opportunities for big plays for offenses. Now in cover two, when you have those corners pressed up, they're more a part of the run fit. You can be physical and reroute, and you're theoretically closing down the windows to the outside parts of the field. And when you have a guy like Edgerrin Cooper, you can still make plays in the middle of the field, and you've got safeties with ranges like Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams. You can cover a lot of ground. But they didn't just play cover two to cover their ass. They played cover two, I think, in part because they were good at it. No team, according to True Media, generated more EPA from cover two last year than the Green Bay Packers. So that is a good place to be for a defense. And so when you look around and you're able to see, okay, they don't have those shutdown corners, but they have guys who can get the job done, who know what to do, who play discipline. This is the thing we've been talking about all offseason, this weak link system idea. But they were also 8th in passer rating against when playing man coverage. So when you bring in Nate Hobbs, who I think can play zone or man, and you have another year with Keyshawn Nixon, and now Javon Bullard gets to understand, okay, I am the nickel corner at least most of the time. And you bring in Carrington Valentine, who is a press man corner. And you have Jeff Hafley coming from college, where at Boston College, at Ohio State, he played a lot of press man coverage. In cover two, you get the press without the man. You get the press without the man coverage. You reroute receivers, get physical at the line of scrimmage. You're part of the run fit. You can come up and support. But what if you could play more man coverage too? Would the Packers want to do that? I'm fascinated to see what the plan is going to be, how Jeff Hafley evolved this defense, because we saw him evolve it in real time last year. We saw him go, look, we want to be a 4-3 zone team. We want to at least resemble what the Seahawks did once upon a time. Have Xavier McKinney be the eraser in the middle of the field, or have that too high shell spin into single high, and it's either Evan Williams or Xavier McKinney playing that single high spot. But either way, the more coverages you have, the more pitches you can throw as a defense, the better equipped you are to handle an offense, right? But so how does another evolution for Jeff Hafley look? Okay, it's not going to be 3 deep, 4 under all the time. It's going to be more cover two. It's going to be more quarters. It's going to be more simulated pressures. It's going to be more disguises on the back end. Okay, now offenses are going to adjust. What is the counterpunch coming from Jeff Hafley? What are they anticipating? What are the conversations being had between Jeff Hafley and Matt LaFleur? Because you have to imagine Matt LaFleur wants to have a better plan this year for the blitz, for simulated pressures, because that has been all the rage right now in the NFL. Everyone wants to send creepers and simulateds and make it seem like a bunch of guys are coming and then ultimately only rush 4. Can you get home with 4 by creating an unblocked rusher because you don't know which 4 are coming? Can you blitz? Can you generate pressure schematically without sending extra bodies? That is the trick. That was something Mike Pettin, by the way, was very good at. When I think it was his last year in Green Bay, he was really a proponent of sending 3, but he would put a simulated pressure in, so it looks like it's a big time blitz. You slide the protection, and then it's only a 3-man pressure. You got to get the ball out. It's rally and tackle time on 3rd and long, and you're in a good position to succeed. How does having Javon Bullard in the slot affect the way you want to play? How does having the flexibility to move Nate Hobbs around to match up with, like, they didn't have last year a guy to be a matchup kind of player. And Nate Hobbs is not a shutdown corner, or at least has not been to this point in his NFL career. But he is a versatile piece, someone who is as adept in the slot as he is outside, can play in the slot against the Amon-Ra St. Browns, against the Justin Jeffersons when he plays in the slot, against these bigger tight ends even because he's a bigger bodied corner. A move tight end like Sam Laporta. That gives you more flexibility with how you want to draw up these coverages. So yes, they were good in that coverage. A top 10 defense. Overall, top 10 passing defense. So then what are you able to change? How are you able to be malleable? How are you able to adjust? And I think that is the thing for the Packers that they have to be ahead of the game on. They have to be the ones that go, look, we know how they're going to counter, and we've got to counter for the counter. We've got to punch off the counter punch. And I'm saying Jeff Hafley has one of the best resources in the NFL to do that in Matt LaFleur. Hey, Matt, how are you planning to adjust to some of these simulated pressures? How are you planning to adjust to man coverage? Because that's something that the team has struggled with. I think that's a great opportunity to get some answers from Jeff Hafley and to evolve this defense. Like, it's going to change because your personnel is a little bit different. How does Edgerrin Cooper's arrival on the scene affect the way that you want to play things? You want him in run and chase mode. Well, playing a bunch of man coverage means he's not visioned to the quarterback, visioned to the field around him with an opportunity to go make plays at the same rate. Is that what you want to do? We just talked the other day about how the whole idea of this defense and the guys that they play is predicated or should be predicated on how do you make Edgerrin Cooper the best he can be. So how do you find that balance? How do you still maximize Xavier McKinney? Because Xavier McKinney is not maximizing cover 2, I'll tell you that right now. But they were good at it. Like, that's the balance these coaches constantly have to walk. It's like, okay, we're not maximizing our best players necessarily, but we're playing well as a team. Do we risk upsetting that balance? Do we upset the cheese curd cart here and try something in search of maximizing our best players, or do we continue to do and maximize the thing that is already working? This is the innovation dilemma constantly. Now, one place they're going to have to innovate is attacking man coverage on offense. I want to talk about that next on Locked On Packers. We all know the man coverage numbers were not great for the Green Bay Packers. Last year, they had their issues. I didn't know how great until I was looking up the defensive numbers for the Packers playing man coverage. By the way, 8th in EPA in man coverage last year, 8th in passer rating as well. The Packers were 21st in offensive EPA against man coverage. 21st. Forget the scheme. Forget the evolution of Jaden Reed or Dontavian Wicks or Romeo Dobbs or Tucker Kraft. Forget all of that for a second. There is a regression to the mean that can solve some of this. They were abnormally bad against man coverage last year. 21st. Let me just give you a couple teams who were better. The Carolina Panthers were better generating value against man coverage. The Carolina Panthers. The New York Jets, whose passing offense, by the way, was way worse last year than the Green Bay Packers. The LA Chargers, who do not have a superlative receiving corps, do not have guys who are one-on-one route. Like Ladd McConkey had a really nice rookie season, but they couldn't throw every man coverage route to Ladd McConkey. And they were still able to generate plays in the passing game against man coverage. The Las Vegas Raiders. I know Devontae Adams had a nice start to the season, but like, come on. They didn't have quarterbacks or receivers on that team last year, and they generated more value against man coverage than the Green Bay Packers. The Indianapolis Colts, who benched their quarterback, generated more value, according to True Media, against man coverage. That's just like the passing game is too good overall for that to be the case. It's just nonsensical. It doesn't make sense. So and you can't just say, like, if you're a coaching staff, you're not going to go, well, regression will help us against man coverage. Like, it's not the shot chart thing in the NBA where it's like, no, we're going to keep taking threes. Even if they don't go in, the math says you just keep firing. And by the way, I'm one of those people that's like, just keep shooting. Just keep shooting because the numbers say the math works in your favor over time. Now, if in a game you need a couple shots at the end, try and get to some mid-range shots if you need to, if you have a guy that can do that. But otherwise, an open three is a good shot. This is a different thing. This is what is going on exactly? Like, it's not that Matt LaFleur has bad man beater calls. It's not even that his players are bad man coverage receivers. Like, Christian Watson eats up man coverage and was healthy most of the year. Dontavian Wicks gets open. Now, his drops were part of the issue, but I think the drops, that's part of the outlier problem here. When you lead the league in drops, it's really hard to generate value. And as I said, when we talked about this with Jaden Reed, the fact that he was so good against zone, the most efficient receiver in the NFL against zone coverage last year, would be near the bottom against man coverage, just doesn't compute. Because so much of like, there's plenty of times when you're like locked on the backside of quarters, or it's cover three and it's one-on-one, like it's really de facto man coverage. It's not like Jaden Reed can't get open. Plus, part of getting open is finding soft spots in the zone. It's making yourself quarterback friendly. It's timing. It's a lot of different things. And I understand if you're one of those people listening going, it's not sparkling analysis to go, it'll be fine, which is essentially what I'm saying. Don't worry about it. I'm not really saying that either. What I'm saying is, without having to do anything else. I'm not saying don't. I'm saying without having to do anything else, without having to make changes to personnel, which they did, without having to make adjustments to the way that they attack man coverage, which I'm sure they will. They will just be better against man coverage in 2025 because, and I know that seems weird to insist on, but the answer to why that will be is because the passing game is too good overall to continue to have the issues that they did against man coverage. And again, when you look at the drops are drops. So you say man coverage, oh, those are more contested situations. Well, no, you don't get a drop for a PBU. If it's a contested catch and you don't make it, it's not a drop. So part of this is just a little bit of luck. Man coverage, Jaden Reed gets the ball, drop. Dontavian Wicks, man coverage, he gets the ball, drop. It's not, oh, there was more pressure on the ball. The window might be tighter, but that's not a drop then. No, it could be, okay, it's the difference between a highly contested shot in basketball and a lightly contested shot in basketball. Maybe you could make that sort of comparison. But it's not like in zone coverage, you aren't dealing with funky windows and the ball, you got to layer a throw. You're Jordan Love. You got to layer a throw over the linebacker in front of the safety, outstretched fingertips, and the receiver has to concentrate enough to make that play. That is not materially different in terms of the focus required, the hand-eye coordination required than I've got to beat in man coverage. I got to get my head turned on this slant and make the catch. There was just some bad luck last year, like abnormally bad. There are look at the bottom of this list. There are no good offenses on the bottom of this list. All the teams at the bottom of this list in terms of the EPA generated against man coverage, it's the Browns, it's the Bears, it's the Giants, it's the Patriots, it's the Steelers. It's the bad teams. It's the bad offenses. All the good offenses, it's Detroit, it's Washington, it's the Commanders, it's the Bills, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Bengals. They're the teams at the top. The Bills don't have a ton more weapons to get open. In fact, I don't think their receivers are at all better than Green Bay. I think Green Bay has the better receiver room now. Josh Allen eats up man coverage with his legs. So that's the other piece of this. Can Jordan Love, and we've had this part of the conversation before, but I think it's relevant to circle back to here because this is an injury thing. So the outlier piece, oh, this is just weirdness, just because, part of the just because is if Jordan Love is healthy, he will play differently. I think he will run more. And so that is just like, okay, that's going to make life easier for the Packers offense. In 2023, remember that show we did yesterday, all the way to yesterday? And we talked about separating what is from what was. A thing happened last year. That doesn't mean it is true. It means it was true. In 2023, the Packers generated the 7th most EPA offensively against man coverage. What does that tell you? When they're not dropping the ball at the highest rate in the league, their ability to handle man coverage is fine. It's fine, and it's going to be fine. All right, more to come next week. We're almost to training camp. Just like days away from training camp opening, from football being played on the field. So follow me on the social medias. Follow the podcast on the social medias. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get podcasts. Go subscribe over on our YouTube page so you can stay locked on Packers.